How are you doing? This is Martin from Gardens for Life. I want to give you a tour of our garden just in the peak of the season, the peak of the growing season that is, towards the end of summer. We're going to put the winter pre-sale on a bit earlier. Normally we'd put it on in September, but we want to give you all the opportunity to get in on all of our tubers and cuttings, and especially the willows and the poplars, and all of the edible ancient tubers as well. Well on time, because those actually seem to sell out every year now for the last several years. So we'll give you a tour first and we'll show you around. You'll get to see all of the different plants actually as they're growing, and later on you get to see them as tubers. If you want to have a look at what kind of tubers and cuttings and plants we have for sale, especially as part of our winter selection, please feel free to take a look at our website. I'll put a link below. So in our garden we have two different types of gardens that we use, two different techniques. Mainly no-dig garden beds, which are for production, basically where we extract produce or fertility in the form of produce, and we top it up every year with a little bit of compost just to feed the soil life. And that's how we replenish the fertility. And in our forest gardens or lasagna garden beds, those are completely covered with a thick layer of wood chips, which are slowly breaking down with the help of the mycelium, which is the roots of the mushroom, and the rest of the soil life. The next level gardening would be a lower maintenance version of the no-dig garden beds, but it's just all one area with no paths in general, and it's called lasagna gardening. And we have also been establishing our little food forest or forest garden with the same technique. So it's basically the same thing as a lasagna garden, except you plant trees in between your berry bushes and perennial flowers. Basically the idea is that the wood chips actually cause it to be much lower maintenance because there's less weeds, so the weed seeds that land there from mid-air actually cannot germinate, and it also acts as a blanket for the garden where it actually stops the frost in the winter time, and it also stops it from drying out in the summertime. So it's actually a really good technique, and especially because we're copying it from nature itself in the forest. The forest floor is basically what you're trying to mimic when you're doing a wood chip mulched garden. This is just basically a quick tour of our gardens, but if you want to come here in person and get a really detailed tour for 2 hours or so, please take a look at our websites. We have walk and talks available in the coming weeks. Now bear in mind that we haven't actually prepared the garden in particular to give you a tour, but it is just as it is with our what little maintenance we've actually put into it. Maybe a couple of hours a week is all we do this time of year. So you'll find that some of it is a little overgrown, but usually with good plants, hopefully. This is our front garden. You can see the raspberries are really taken off. Those are birdland raspberries. They're really good. They are primocane. They fruit twice a year. Once in autumn on the new growth, and again on the same wood in early summer. And we still have some oriental poppies. These are giant poppies. Really good for the bees, and especially for the bumblebees too. Look at this plant here. This is actually a corkscrew willow, like the ones you saw earlier in the background. That's only 1 year old. It's already about 2 meters tall. And look at the magnificent willows. I'm sure they haven't finished growing yet for the season. There's another 2 months left in the growing season, but they're doing really well, blocking all the wind and making it lovely and private too from the road. These are Olympic mullein, very beneficial flower, also medicinal, and the leaves can be used in tea. We have some valerian here too. This is a wild willow that we let grow. Look at the size of the leaves. It's very unusual. If anyone here could tell me, do you think that is a willow? It looks like a willow to me, but the leaves are a little different. Please leave a comment below. Pineapple sage. Let's get some cuttings off of that. Oh yes, the grapefruit mint as well. That will become available again soon. This is the 1-year-old rhubarb plant. Quite a few stalks in it already. We could start using that. You can see the front garden has really taken off. This is chocolate mint and it's going to flower, so it's even going to be benefiting the insects too, not just us, to use as tea. The great mullein has finished flowering and it's incubating its seeds now. Look, is that an admiral butterfly? I'm not sure. This is motherwort. That's the name of that plant. Look, the bees seem to love it. There used to be a path here, but all of our plants have grown over the top of it, as you can see. That's okay. We didn't really need the path that much, as long as it's productive plants that are growing on top of it, rather than weeds or grasses. While these are nettles, we better cut those back. So looking back, this area used to be just basically grass and brambles, and those weren't quite that useful, so we covered it all in lasagna garden beds, or one large garden bed, and we planted several hundred plants, and those are growing now, and they're all perennials as well, so we don't have to actually do much work here in order to maintain it, except for removing some of the odd nettles. There's more rhubarb. Again, that's a 1-year-old plant. Rhubarb produces a lot of food. That's why we will do them as crowns, especially in the winter time. Beetroot. This is like a willow tunnel to bee. It hasn't been connected at the top yet, as you can see. Here we have planted some more willows straight into the deep grass. As you can see, they have grown. In the first year they'll grow a few feet, but in the second year they really take off, especially if you mulch them. And that was our front garden. Here we're making a new insect pile, or a pile where we just basically throw any of the brush. You can see the willows here are the shelter belt. The front garden we just walked through is right in behind that shelter belt. And these are no-dig garden beds. We've planted some of these bunching onions. Those are potato onions. And some rhubarb plants there towards the end. We'll also have these white currants as cuttings. It's my favourite kind of currant because the birds don't eat them because they don't realise they're ripe. Those are black currants. They're huge black currants, huge berries. Here you go. These are the black currants. Can you see that? Look at the amount of berries here, and they're really sweet too. Very big berries. It's a black currant. Describe the flavour. How is it?
Rainbow.
Rainbow flavour, what's that? Sweet.
Rainbow flavour.
Okay. Blackcurrant flavour. Not sour anyway. Oh. And they're really sweet as well. It's our own variety. It's called Birdland blackcurrants. We'll have cuttings of those available too. And of course the Josta berry. Josta berry is actually a mixture between a gooseberry and a blackcurrant, and these are red currants and gooseberries. This again is motherwort. Look at it, isn't it magnificent? And there's loads of bees here. I've actually never seen that many bees on one plant. It's quite a beautiful plant too. It has other uses as well. We'll definitely do some of these green hinonmaki as cuttings. Those do really well here, and they have quite large berries as well. Very nice variety of gooseberry, and we planted some carrots here in this area, but those did not grow. Unfortunately, it must have been just before a drought. You can see the Chinese potatoes, Chinese yam, growing up all of our berry bushes now. And more rhubarb. We also have buddleia, lots of different varieties of buddleia in different colours. Looking at that plant is now 1.5 years old. You get quite a few stems there. That's Glaskins perpetual. We're also growing Victoria and a few other varieties of rhubarb. Of course, here's our main plant, that's the yacon. Those will only be available from February onwards because we'd rather only send those out and cut up the crowns just before the growing season begins. Better chance of them propagating correctly. We have a few more. These are new garden beds now. We had covered this area here actually with plastic for the longest time, maybe for 6 months. And we covered it with compost then, with a front loader of a tractor. And here's a few beetroots. Those did quite well. Some of them, you can see them here. Those have only been planted recently. Those lavender plants are only young yet, but they're about maybe 3 or 4 months in the ground, and we're going to sell those Beetroot as part of our winter selection. Here's a few potatoes. It's a special German variety. And here's a bit of garlic, purple Murado, I don't know how to pronounce it. And what have we got here?
Courgettes.
Courgettes, awesome. And is there any ready?
Okay.
That's 15 plants in a relatively small space. And it is quite productive.
Mine's ready. There.
Alright, can you harvest it? Don't touch the stems though. They're prickly. They have these little spikes on them. Good man, hold it up. That's a courgette. Great. Courgettes are nice to cook with, and you can even eat them raw when you harvest them really small. You like eating courgettes raw? Yeah, when they're small like that, they're alright. How is it?
Good.
So here we have some corn as well. I planted it a little bit late. You can see the cobs developing down here. And the pollen up here. We'll see. It's nice to have your own sweet corn in the garden. It tastes much better than what's in the shops. And these are the raspberries. These have gotten huge. They were only tiny. They were only 1/2 foot tall, or 15 centimeters, maybe 3 months ago. And a few more yacon plants. Raspberries, somebody's favourite fruit.
I want to eat some raspberries.
When you let them grow it, they'll eat it. These are Jerusalem artichokes. Look how tall they got. Here, Jacob, will you walk over there, please, into the forest a little bit, so you get an idea of the scale. They must be about 2.5, nearly 3 meters tall at this stage, and they're about to flower as well. You're okay there. And that's 2 different varieties. We have white truffle and red fusau. And we have also got other varieties down that way as well. We have 4 more varieties. This area here was kind of overwhelmed by weeds for a while, so we cleaned it up. Now it's just an arugula patch, or rocket salad. We might plant a few more bits here. We have a bit of more room. But look at these Olympic mullen. Aren't they magnificent? Those are last year's plants. It's a biennial. We're actually keeping the dandelions now because we have rabbits and that's their favourite food. So we don't mind them actually spreading. But we have quite the Olympic mullein forest here. Hopefully we get some seeds off these. We should do. Now we have some mashuas. These are Japanese wine berries. Very excited about that, and we'll have to grow some more of those. You can see here how the poppies, the giant poppy, has actually gone to seed, and we'll be collecting those too. And the oxalis iron cross. Very beautiful plant, but also edible and a really nice flavour. And here's some more. More mashuas and some black magic kale, which is basically Nero or black Toscana, but much larger leaves. It's really nice kale, a little bit more bitter than the other kales. Like I find red Russian kale is a lot milder than Portuguese kale, but it has its place in the kitchen, and we even eat it raw sometimes a little bit as we're walking through the garden, because it must be good for you. We also give kale to our animals. We grow kale especially just for the chickens and rabbits, and they love it. Guess how we know? Because they scoff it when they get it. This is Taunton Dean kale. It's Taunton Dean. Also quite an ornamental kale because it has these purple stems and veins. More of the oriental poppy seeds. And here we have planted some marshmallows. Marshmallow plants, that is, not the actual sweet. These are rhubarb and some Worcesterberry. We have some lovage here, and these are the self-seeded red Russian kale plants. We had one bed of red Russian kale here about 3 years ago, and it turned into 3 beds by now, and they're coming back again now from seed. So we're actually going to, you can see the little plants here, and those are all going to grow into new plants. We'll have some kale for the winter and seeds again for next year, and we're going to harvest some of those kale seeds now today. We've actually harvested some last week already, and we got quite a substantial amount of seeds out of it. Definitely got a good few seeds there. Take a look. So these red Russian kale plants have already adapted to the conditions in our garden and climate here very well. For the last 3 years they have self-seeded, and we're going to send off a free bag of seeds to everyone that places a pre-order for our winter selection. And here are some apple trees that we grafted ourselves last spring. And we have some Chinese artichokes here. And lots of comfrey. This year we really multiplied our comfrey. It's a super useful plant. It's medicinal, also it's good for animal feed and great for the insects. It attracts all of the beneficial insects, like the bees, for example. Who here can guess what plant this is? Anyone? Purple tree spinach. Really nice plant. It's a shame it actually dies back with the first frost. I wish it was frost hardy, so we'd have it over the winter, but we'll have to stick with our kale and chard over the winter. And these are, in behind that, some josta berries. Again, that's a hybrid berry. Really nice fruits coming off that. Totally unique flavour. We even have some special varieties of potatoes here, which is the pink fir apple potato. Let me see if I can take up some. There they are. They're small, but they're meant to be the most tasty potatoes you can get. We'll dig them up one of these days and we'll show you. We might even offer up a few of them as part of our winter sale, but only a few, because they are quite rare and we only have a few. It's quite the forest here. Yeah, baby Jerusalem artichokes. Huge amount of Jerusalem artichokes. We had some garlic here in this corner, which kind of got overwhelmed a little bit by the Jerusalem artichokes. Here are some Egyptian walking onions. We've already harvested the bulblets of that. We have a few left available on the website if anyone's interested, and just a few potato onions. They were sold out for a short while. They were sold out for a while, but we've found a few more in our garden. So these are more Jerusalem artichokes. That's fuzao and a Chinese variety. We also have other varieties here in our woodchip island, but we'll show you that in a minute. Go ahead. This area here we had covered in plastic because we want to make a new garden bed here, or new garden beds. And you can see already the grasses have grown back. So we'll have to cover it again one more time, and then we'll cover it in compost when we get some. Do you know what? It'd be interesting to see. It would be interesting to see how the grasses are doing underneath here. Very well, look at that. There's no grasses left. That's nice. It's been quite a fight this year now to try and keep the grasses down to stop them from seeding into our garden beds, especially all of the perennial weeds as well. But we're doing very well. We have basically taken them down twice or even 3 times this summer in an effort to stop them from going to seed in our garden or in the vicinity of our garden beds. Now we've almost come the whole way around the woodchip island now. You can see here there's a whole bunch of clover growing on our path, which was actually unintentional, but it's brilliant for animal feed. You can see here our sun garden, because it's in full sun in the warmest spot beside the greenhouse. It's doing really well. It's quite the jungle now, and that's normal for this time of year. It's a mixture between mainly yacon, mashua, oca, and all those tuberous vegetables, and also some great mullein in between to attract the insects, and some pineapple sage, and some berry bushes, of course, and some trees as well. There's even a few sunflowers here that Bianca was growing. Hang on until I show you. Here's one of the sunflowers, and many more are about to open up. You can see the pumpkins are actually growing right beside the greenhouse here. We'll show you that from inside. What you can see, it is quite a productive area. I have a feeling he's going to be a professional photographer one day, or maybe a very good amateur photographer. Never too shy to get the right angle on a sunflower. In our greenhouse here, we have a little bit of a work area in the front here, an area to sit down to if it rains. We have some Madeira vine. It can be grown outdoors too. I think it's more productive inside though. Our apios didn't do too well this year. I'm not entirely sure why, but we may not be able to offer that to you this year. These are Chinese yam. Hopefully we'll get some seeds from that. And a goji berry bush and a salt bush. These are our dehydrators. And it's so dry in the greenhouse here that you can easily dry things like flowers, maybe even berries. We haven't tried that yet though. These are fig trees, lots of different varieties of figs. And look at the magnificent oxalis triangularis. It's lovely flavour of flowers and leaves. And more figs. Here we're drying some of our garlic. This is Isle of Wight and elephant garlic. Some orphrey and some more orphrey. So you can see the pumpkins from the inside of the greenhouse here, although they're only a bit small yet. A little bit later in the year and it'll look really nice like last year. This area here is used mainly for the purpose of drying garlic and such. We can also start some plants here too if we want to. We have another greenhouse too. This is the back of the greenhouse. This is where we get our compost dumped. We're going to turn it into a garden eventually. And this was actually all covered in plastic before, and we had completely killed off the grasses here, but we had taken away the plastic for about 3 months, and look, it's all back as lush as ever, so we'll have to do it again. I guess we're building fertility just by covering the grass again and again, so that's good. Yeah, there's a few pumpkins here in between and lots of mashuas. Hopefully we'll get a good mashua harvest this year. We're probably just going to do a mix, different varieties, different colours, all in one mix, rather than offering the varieties individually. Now we'll walk over here. So this plastic was only put down recently. We'll take a look underneath to see how progress is doing. That's not bad. You can see here the grasses have definitely wilted. Mainly to stop the grasses from going to seed right beside our gardens, especially before our own plants have taken off sufficiently so that they are well established enough to fight off any kind of other plants that are more undesirable, like weeds. But you can see we're also growing lots of nettles here, unfortunately, right in the middle of the land. Now we don't mind nettles. Nettles are a really good plant. They're nutritious, they can be eaten, they're medicinal. They're great for the insects, but we have enough of them on the outskirts of our garden up here. So we'd rather not have any right in the middle because we have to keep controlling them because they spread just too quickly. This area here we're going to cover in black plastic. We're going to move that plastic over here to here and try and kill off all the grass in this area and then cover it in compost. Might even turn it into a little forest garden yet, we'll see. This is another place where we drop our compost off, like you may have seen in the other video that we just put out earlier in the week, or last week, depending on when you watch this. So here we are back around the woodchip island. We have mainly the nursery belt, as we call it, because we produce plants or propagate plants. It's just plastic that we put down to try and protect our first garden that we started here 3 years ago, and just for stop the grasses from going to seed nearby. And then we might as well use it for something. So we're just growing plants here, and this is the woodchip island. It has become quite a jungle, as you can see, and we will show you that now. Here's a number of currants, black currants and red currants. Yarrow is a really good plant to have around. Here's the flowers now. And who here knows what that is? Horseradish. It's actually a nice plant for a salad. Even the young leaves or the actual roots are really spicy and a really nice medicinal plant too. These are the blackberries. These are thornless blackberries. You can see there's some serious amount of berries here. And hopefully we'll get the weather suited to them. We have plenty of blackberries out in the road, but if these ones fail, we'll have some for sure out there. You can see here, we'll try and walk in here. This is a cornelian cherry tree. and some feverfew. And another pineapple sage. See these purple or pink flowers? They're actually tuberous peas. And by golly, they have grown very, very big. Those were planted here about 3 years ago now. And I'd like to dig up one or two just to see how many plants there's actually in it. These are the Jerusalem artichokes. You can see the tallest ones are actually the Aurora Reuben. That's the variety. It's a red one. And it also flowers most prolifically. See if we can find a way through. These are Jacob's Ladder is the name of the flower. It's really nice and perennial. Here we can see the American elders. So this garden was only started 3 years ago, and we actually started it as a vegetable garden for annuals, and we planted more and more perennials in between, mainly to attract the insects at first, but then we planted more and more tubers, for example, and trees. Even we have some fruit trees on that side. That's the north side, by the way. These are Paulownia trees. That's more of an experiment. Just planted those for fun. Those are actually a foxglove tree, and it grows really big tropical looking leaves. They even grow much bigger than that later in the year, depending on the summer. Some other varieties of black currants, and we have planted lilac in between too, and of course some oregano, lots of strawberries planted in between. And those just multiply automatically without having to do any work at all. You can see the runners just grow straight down into the wood chips. You can see here about 1 inch down, and the wood chips have broken down already. That means we have to probably top them up a little bit just to stop weeds from establishing on top. Here's another thornless blackberry plant. Here's another poppy. And the aronia berries. Geez, the birds seem to like them. Unfortunately, we didn't even get to eat one that's ripe. We might find some more in a different part of the garden. We have lots of raspberries too, and some Portuguese kale right here. This one's a little bit curly, and we're going to save the seeds. You can see the seed pods here. Look at the seeds falling out here. It'll self-seed. Unlike the Taunton Dean, which does not go to flower, so it doesn't actually go to seed. The only way to propagate it is actually to do it by cuttings. A few more varieties of raspberries here. Might offer up some of them, but just a few. And the magnificent pineapple mint. Isn't it quite ornamental? And that's one plant, and it doesn't really spread anymore because we've been harvesting the roots all around it. There's a Russian apple tree and a pear tree. This is a marshmallow plant, and this is 3 years old. You can see it gets huge, quite big, and if we wanted to harvest the root, we could. You could even harvest the root after 1 or 2 years already. Well, it's great for the insects, and the leaves are really good for making a tea for a rough throat as well, because there's mucilage in it. Again, here are the aronia berries. Unfortunately, we did not get to eat any of them. Here's 1 or 2, but I'm afraid that's not ripe yet. And you can see the American elder right in the middle here. It will be going to flower soon. Whereas the other variety of American elder we have is already gone to flower, straight after the European elder finishes. These are curly corkscrew willow. Again, if you cut it back regularly, once a year, it won't turn into a tree, it'll turn into a bush. These are buddleia. We do have 1 or 2 plums this year on these trees, but I'm not sure. I don't think they're any good. I mean, the tree grew well. These are Aldi and little trees, but I wouldn't recommend them at all because we haven't had any success with them really. I mean, maybe the plum trees just take longer to fruit. You can see here there's 1 or 2 not great looking fruits, but the apple trees too aren't great out of there. In other words, buy some proper apple trees from Irish Seed Savers if you can get them, or when you can get them. Actually in October, that's when they usually sell out straight away for the year, for the winter. Or you can get them in, I think, Heritage Orchard it's called in Leitrim, or probably somewhere else like in a garden centre. But just don't buy those kind of commercial production varieties anyway. They're not going to do too well here, I don't think. These are the hybrid poplars. They can grow quite big in the first year, and the leaves can even exceed about 20 centimeters or so in diameter. It's really nice as a summer hedge, and it blocks the wind, and you can use that wood then either to make cuttings or let it grow for a few years and then use it as firewood. These beetroots here unfortunately haven't gone to seed, even though, well, they haven't got any viable seeds anyway. Not sure why. That's a shame. But nevertheless, we'll just get rid of these and then plant some more. Something else in this spot. The woodchip island has well and truly turned into a jungle. There used to be a path here, but that's kind of the theme anyway, that this marshmallow kind of falls over. We have sea buckthorn trees, and we have these American elder trees. Look at the size of the bunch of flowers, and they haven't even opened yet. They have a lovely vanilla flavour in the flowers, and they flower for the whole growing season from midsummer onwards. So right after the American elder has finished flowering, which is ideal for cordial making and wine making and that kind of thing, and medicinal purposes of course. Thanks a million for watching the video, and if you want to have a look at our winter selection, you can have a look at our website. We'd highly appreciate your support. Please don't forget, if you are buying items that are on pre-sale and items that are available now, that we will be shipping them all together. If you want them now, then you better buy those separately and then place an order for the winter selection also. Again, thanks for watching the video, and we will see you at the next one. Bye bye.
Bye.